The war in Ukraine has been described as the most documented in history, and this is why. The footage you see shows Russian infantry being attacked by a civilian drone adapted to carry a hand grenade. The Ukrainian drone operators call this delivering a gift.
Well, we're in the village, or what's left of the village, of Zolota Niva, which is on the southern Donetsk front. The Russians are on two horizons in front of me, and if you were to travel some 50 miles to the southeast, you would reach the city, or what's left of the city, of Mariupol. This is a village that has changed hands twice over the course of the war since the invasion. First, the Russians took it from the Ukrainians, then the Ukrainians took it back from the Russians, and now the Ukrainians continue to hold it. And there's still the detritus of the battles that were fought here, and some of the bodies are still lying out there in the field.
Last week, male cameraman Jamie Wiseman and I were in the critical Bakhmut sector of the front line. Heavy rains and artillery barrages and human wave Russian infantry attacks had caused it to resemble a First World War battlefield. Then, all of a sudden, spring arrived and brilliant blue skies. We have travelled some 100 miles southwest to the front line along the so-called land bridge, the territory seized last year which links Russia proper to occupied Crimea. In Zolota Niva, every cottage is damaged or destroyed, even the little cemetery has been booby-trapped. On a dirt track beside a ruined Russian armoured personnel carrier, various items of combat detritus lie scattered. One is a black army boot. Next to it is a human thigh bone, chalky white in the sunshine. The Russians didn't retrieve their dead when they had the chance, and we didn't move them because we were afraid of booby-trap, the Ukrainian soldier tells me. War is war, but it is strange they should leave their own here to be eaten by dogs.
А як вас звати?
Людмила.
Людмила.
Да.
Дуже приємно. Я Олександр.
Ага. Познайомилися? Ну нічого.
Not every civilian in the area has been evacuated or fled. In a nearby village we meet a pensioner with an infectious laugh called Ludmila. She is delighted to be able to speak to anyone. Why has she remained so close to the front lines when she could have been evacuated like most of her fellow residents? Recently, an 80-year-old neighbour was fatally wounded by Russian cluster munitions. I have spent all my life here, Ludmila says. I was born, baptized and lived, and now I receive my pension here. I have no relatives except my sister and brother-in-law. And he is disabled, so we cannot leave. But we have survived, and God helps us. He answers our prayers. It is quiet and calm here now, but the Russians sometimes shell. Everyone tries to calm down his or her nerves by pretending that it's just training, not a real war. She laughs. Nearby, a man is pulling a primitive harrow in preparation for planting. It is a scene that might have taken place 200 years ago, if it were not for the distant rumble of artillery. This is Corporal Denis Shamadek, who leads the Border Guard drone unit you saw attacking Russian troops in the previous clip. He was the manager of a commercial farm in that now deserted village of Zolota Niva. Now his job, and that of his men, all civilians until the invasion, is to dominate the battlefield around Mariinka from the air. Their control centre is a ramshackle cottage somewhere in Donetsk. The location must remain a secret. Drone operators are high-priority targets for the artillery of both sides. Sunlight trickles through the net curtains, picking out the faded pink of the cherry blossom wallpaper. Set out on the kitchen table are a plate of shortbread biscuits, a jar of instant coffee, and a carton of tea bag. But that is where domesticity draws a line. The scarred wooden surface is also cluttered with pineapple-shaped hand grenades, a coiled snake of plastic explosives, and what resembles a laptop that has sprouted helicopter wings. A drone. They are almost without exception off-the-shelf commercial models that his team have upgraded and modified, both in the software and hardware, to better suit their military application and survivability. They face an enemy which has far greater numbers and is deploying an array of sophisticated electronic drone countermeasures that have to be overcome. This unit might lose as many as 10 drones in one day. It is a war of attrition in the air as well as on the ground. But better to lose one drone than a single life, the corporal tells us. The infantry call us their guardian angels. And this is what their drones can do. As we watch, Corporal Shamadek is correcting artillery fire onto a Russian position on the edge of Mariinka. We are waiting for the explosion, he explains. We watch the silent, real-time footage from a drone camera on his iPad screen. From what we can see, Mariinka could not be any more ruined. In footage released this week by the Ukrainian military, you can see a complex ambush taking place in Mariinka. A Russian tank, when accompanying infantry, is being attacked under the control of drones from the corporal's unit. First, the tank is struck and set on fire by a missile fired by men of the 79th Air Assault Brigade. Artillery is then called down upon the accompanying troops, directed again by the drone unit. Any trip by road along the Donbass front line runs a risk of an unpleasant surprise. Here, the village of Velkya Novosika was hit by a Russian heavy mortar barrage as we approached it. As we leave at speed, the vegetation on both sides of the highway is ablaze, as are several other spots inside the shattered settlement. The road itself has been hit and is littered with shrapnel. Along the way, we pass anti-tank mines in the long grass. And a pheasant. As we leave, the Russian lines are on fire. Ukrainian drone pilots have been busy again.